Travis Goodcell. I silenced Beyond a Reasonable Doubt that I'm watching currently. It came out in 2009, so nobody can accuse me of using that as my motivation for what I did to get the church in trouble. In 2008, I had been writing a book of a commentary of the Constitution of the United States of America. And as I was recognizing that the state of Utah was closing in on me, changing laws to target me, I realized they were never going to let me go. And so I turned that book into a petition for a redress of grievances. And on the anniversary of my divorce and the birthday of the first wife who had abandoned me, of whom I had been trying to get my kids back through the court system, because nobody in the state of Utah government nor the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were assisting me in getting my kids back, let alone making my life easier with the hardship that I went through. They increased the hardship for me. And so I gave the petition to the proper authorities. The Attorney General and the Governor, who are at the Capitol building, the state capitol, or the state courthouse, because that's where you file. They didn't have a place where you stamp overnight submissions, or at least I couldn't find it. And I'd already been assaulted, well, threatened by church security that night, because I didn't want to make a scene. I wanted to file at night, as I knew I was allowed to, because the federal courthouse that I had previously been trying to sue for relief had the box out front that you can stamp, that they may know that when the filing had occurred. And so the petition was designed in such a way that if they were guilty of wanting me gone and out of their life, that they would do so. Just like the reporter sets up the prosecutor or the district attorney for him. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The church, as I also sent them the petition as well, since I have a grievance with them, I want them to resolve the injustice that they've caused me. So they were the ones of whom the state were protecting. Victims of crime are supposed to be helped by the district attorney's office, the prosecution's office, whereas the accused gets the free lawyer if they cannot afford one. So both are granted free counsel. Unfortunately, our system does not work that way, and I knew that. But in defending the church, they had no interest of taking me to trial, because how do you go to court against somebody who is just petitioning for a redress of grievances? Well, in the state of Utah, You don't take them to trial. You accuse them of terroristic threats so that you can seal the case, so that nobody, not the press, nobody knows about it. And then they locked me away in isolation. I had to fake a toothache in order to get out of isolation, so they put me in Supermax with Brian David Mitchell and Curtis Olgeier and some other friends. I have to always give a shout out now to Easy, because it's been long enough now that I can say thanks for the paper. I'm not going to discuss in this video how I was able to obtain that paper. But when I got out, nobody would take the case. And so it's on my record now as a felony accusation. Not a felony conviction. I was never charged. Never went to trial. They would never have won. This is how they do things in a crime state. And all I needed was something that connected the church to the case, to show that the case was responsible and guilty of what was done to me. And so, sure enough, I found it. While searching the internet, they had paid the person who had me disappeared for 6 years of my life. The money trail. And the church got caught. And I exposed it in the lawsuit. The evidence presented in the lawsuit. Now the new judge, she dismissed that presentation of the evidence and the covering up attempt by the church, because they never got served with the original paperwork, and yet for some reason their motion to dismiss kept bringing up the original complaint that they never got served. But they did confess also to the amended one, of which they did get served. And so that was another mistake they made, and I exploited that in my reply. The second reply, because the new judge has been an order trigger happy to dismiss my case. But when I shut her down was when I pointed out that the motion that she dismissed had the evidence of the church's payments to the person who had me disappeared and their attempted cover-up. And I pointed out the other errors of the defense counsel and the crimes of others involved, such as the clerk's office, and pointed out also that the judge was specifically hired because of her background experience as a prosecuting federal, or not a prosecutor, a federal defense counsel. They knew exactly who to put in there. They knew exactly which case to give her first. And so she's been silent as I also exposed the church. I got a sneeze coming on. Oh, man. Oy vey. So, yeah, she's trying to get a hold of guessing the video of his innocence. But, man, I need to blow my nose now. And so, the case is an open and shut one because of the errors and crimes committed during this lawsuit. They were 24 days late filing, saying, hey, here's our motion to dismiss. Did we miss anything? It's not a hard decision for Judge Oberg to make. It's simple, it's easy, and the only reason why she's delaying now, because she didn't make it before noon, so I have to wait till midnight to see if she even bothered today, or if we're just going to go through another week and then another month and so on, is that everybody's been caught and exposed, and so they're just sitting on it, hoping everybody will forget, hoping coronavirus will kill me, hoping another death threat will kill me. I had 2 death threats during this lawsuit from people involved in the lawsuit, and those were pointed out. I mean, it's not complicated as to who wins this case. I mean, I was more brilliant than this guy, and this guy actually did the murder, but then got all the evidence again to pretend to be the murderer. That's the only difference between our 2 cases. Is I went in knowing that I could catch them, that this was the only way to stop them. If I could only catch them in something like a money trail, and they just gave it to me. I guess they never got notified that I got out or something. I submitted my second marriage request to the First Presidency. They knew I was out, because the board would have had to have been involved in it. The board gives the orders as to the money expenditures, especially for this person who had me locked away. They don't just say, oh, I think we are going to do advertising through this random person. That ain't how it works. So, yeah, and other judges that were previously involved in dismissing my case, which forced me to do the petition in 2008, they got promotions as a result of what they did to protect the church. And yeah, it's a simple case, but it involves some real heavy hitters. I mean, we're talking the biggest crime organization in the world. I mean, you think the Gambino family or the Al Capone or those guys were, no, small fish. Small fish. The church has been running their racket using the cover of religion, and I caught them. And then I went and did church history research. Actually did that before, because I needed to find out a connection, some history that I can find, and found it. But yeah, pointed out the inverted pentagram, pointed out that it's referred to from scriptures, and it can't be confused as any other symbol than that of we are a criminal organization and satanic. I mean, yeah, my life should be in great danger, but it's being put on hold until Judge Oberg sides for them, when all reason and law requires her to side for me, and then requires her to then pursue criminal charges against the organization. So we just wait and wait and wait, and she's not doing it. I filed again, about the other death threat, and that motion was for an immediate reply, immediate judgment. But again, we're going on let's see, 2 weeks, and still silence. That's what it was with the first judge, who had been fired and then was given my case. She got fired. She's been removed from all other cases because of her being fired. Nobody wants her involved in their case, and yet you assigned her to me. I mean, she made the news. The first woman magistrate judge to not get a second term. She got fired. And nobody is following the story. That's what's disturbing, is that this is a huge story. The news all recognized it, but they only recognized it as a selfish issue. Oh, a woman is getting fired. She's being held back by the man. No, there's more to the story, guys. It involves the church. She allowed a case against the church to proceed. That was Gaddy versus COP. They fired her for that. The news doesn't cover that. The news makes it a sexist issue with the federal courts. They have no clue of the bigger picture. And so when my case goes up against the church, who do they assign? The one who's being recused from all other cases because she's been fired. And she got fired for letting the church's case go through. She held a hearing on November 1st to have my case dismissed. That's when I dropped the bombshell that the church has been paying the person that had me disappear. And though she allowed me to an extension to file an amended complaint, which I did, she remains silent the rest of her term. She was a delay tactic to protect the church. But she knew that she couldn't just dismiss my case, because she knew I had a case. I had evidence. I presented the evidence. The new judge dismissed the evidence. So I brought it back up again to remind the judge and the defense counsel. The church is done. But they are so corrupt and so in charge of their corruption that this is what the result is. What should have been a quick, easy verdict, theirs only took less than 5 hours for the jury to decide he was guilty. It should have taken less than that. She should have seen it, saw the evidence, and said, guys, sorry, you lose. How could you do this? You guys are this big corporation, you're a big religion, and you commit these types of high crimes, capital crimes, because that's what we're dealing with here. I'm not saying, oh, they took away my tithing money. No. We're talking serious capital crimes that receive the death penalty. This is how corrupt the church is. This is why Mormons are so pissed at me, who are desperate to put a thumbs down and show everybody that they disapprove in secret, because they have no courage to face me. These are those Mormons who are sending me death threats on YouTube. These are the spies sent by the prosecution. And I shut the first one down when I exposed him. Oh man, that was a sweet comment reply. But yeah, they aren't quitting their job, saying, I'm sorry, I can't work with this client because they're actually guilty, and they're not wanting to plead guilty, and so I can't cover for them because I am a lawyer with a passing the bar exam and licensed, and I have ethical standards. I'm not going to side with the church over the United States of America. Nope. They want to betray America too. So this is the level of crime. As YouTube employees are also involved, slowing down the production of the processing of my videos, taking the full time to watch the whole thing to look for any excuse on these videos to shut me down. And then refusing to do the right thing, to treat me equally, to treat me fairly, to treat me according to the standards that they themselves have set. And the church, there's the money trail. I've exposed the money trail. It was actually Business Market that exposed the money trail of the church to Google, thus to YouTube. And I put that in the latest filing. Everybody who's in on it with the church is taking the church down with them. Herbert, by refusing to keep us home until the virus passes over, also got busted in the latest filing. He's attempting to murder us, and thus me, protecting the church to allow the church an escape route if the judge does betray the church. And so it's not complicated. It's an open and shut case. I got him. I outsmarted the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Not just with doctrine, as I've been doing that for a long time now, but I outsmarted the criminal organization. I caught him in the act. And so I don't know if you guys fully grasp the seriousness of this, because the news doesn't. The news did a little coverage of Judge Oberg when she got hired. They didn't see why she was hired. Nobody investigated, well, what case is she being assigned to? What is her first case? Is it one that Judge First maybe had been working with? Nobody was checking any of this out. That's what you're supposed to do as an investigative reporter. But the news is controlled in Utah. They cannot investigate because they get shut down, they get fired, they get punished. I mean, if you saw when Nelson had his press conference when he was first put in, he threatened the Salt Lake City Reporter. I know your parents. I know your family. That was a threat, because she's been critical in reporting about the church. And there is Nelson being put in as she's there to cover it, and he says, I know your family. Nobody talked about that. Because the corruption runs deep. And that's what I've been doing my videos about, is the depths of the corruption in all aspects of the organization. And YouTube is purposely shadow banning me. because they're getting paid to.